A distinctive and rarely encountered forest rail with a gray face, a red neck and chest, and a banded appearance to the belly. The hind neck and back are brown, contrasting with the reddish tail, found in thick vegetation in lowland forests, especially along creeks and near marshes. Song can last up to 3 minutes, a series of doubled hollow notes becoming interspersed with and eventually replaced by softer notes as the song progresses. Also gives a rapid booming series of 3/6 half-second notes that descend on a scale of half tones. Sings by day or night. Large, plain rail with 2 color morphs, either dark chocolate brown or pale medium brown, most with a few white feathers on head and back, especially dark morph. More often in pairs than alone, walking in the darkest areas of mangrove. Occurs in coastal salt lagoons, preferably in black mangrove and occasionally in red mangrove. Easy to find by voice, although sounds virtually identical to mangrove rail. In its habitat, the only all-brown rail with no barring on underparts. Range restricted and endangered, endemic to a small section of coast in northern Venezuela. Large, chicken-like rail of mangroves and fresh marshes in lowlands, heard more often than seen. Its main call is a rhythmic dry chatter. No similar large rails in its range. Note the large size, rusty neck and breast, barred flanks, and long, mostly orange beak. Virginia rail is much smaller, with blue-gray cheeks. Large, chicken-like rail of fresh marshes and highlands, heard more often than seen. Its main call is a rhythmic dry chatter, no similar large rails in its range. Note the large size, rusty neck and breast, large flanks, and long, mostly orange beak. Virginia rail is much smaller, with blue-gray teeth. Large, generally drab rail, of coastal salt lagoons and mangrove forests. Dull grayish-brown overall with few contrasting features, faintly barred gray and white on sides and pale orange bill. Listen for series of harsh notes or loud, risping grunts erupting from marsh. Large, bright rail of freshwater marshes, generally uncommon to rare across range. Note rich orange neck and face, contrasty black and white barring on sides, and rich brownish upper parts with distinct dark streaks. Females are duller than males, very similar to clapper rail, especially on the Gulf Coast. Habitat is a good first clue. King prefers freshwater marshes with extensive cattails or other reeds, rarely found in brackish or saltwater marshes like clapper. King is also brighter overall with more contrasting pattern on the sides and upper parts. Beware that king and clapper can hybridize, where fresh and saltwater meet. Some birds are best left unidentified. Listen for series of harsh notes or loud, risping grunts erupting from marsh, slower and deeper than clapper rail. Large, generally drab rail, but plumage variable depending on location. Can look very similar to king rail. Atlantic coast birds dull grayish-brown overall with few contrasting features. Faintly barred gray and white on sides and pale orange bill. Gulf Coast population brighter with orange neck, more similar to king rail. Note paler and more diffuse barring on sides and less contrasting dark streaks on back. Almost always found in salt marshes close to the coast, where it can be abundant and vocal. Never in inland freshwater marshes, where replaced by king rail. Usually shy, but regularly seen feeding along the edge of channels. Listen for series of harsh notes or loud, risping grunts erupting from marsh. Sometimes hybridizes with king rail, where fresh and salt water meet. Some birds best left unidentified. Shy but generally not uncommon, this reclusive marsh bird is more often heard than seen. Listen for its varied pig-like squeals and grunts coming from dense vegetation. Favors fresh marshes and ponds with taller vegetation, especially reeds and rushes, in winter and freezing weather, sometimes in tidal marshes, most often seen at muddy edges, walking stealthily, can move very quickly, about half the size of a moran. Note long, mostly red bill, unlike short, chicken-like bill of Crakes and barred flanks. Replaced in much of Asia by the brown-cheeked rail, with which it has minor overlap. Very similar, but lacks the strong stripe of that species, has a darker throat and greater breast and belly. A furtive, streaked rail of wetlands and fields, that is often detected within its reedy hideouts by its pig-like squealing and grunting. The brown cheek, while narrow, gives the face a distinctive eyebrowed appearance, as it divides the bluish-gray face in half. The neck, back, and wings are warm brown with black streaking. Breast and belly are brownish-gray with black and white streaking on the flanks. Bright orange lower bill can be surprisingly visible, even from a distance. Classic, mid-sized rail. Note the brown back, gray head and chest, barred belly, and reddish bill and legs. Found in wetlands ranging from flooded grassland to deep swamps. Especially favors cattail marshes. Fairly reclusive but walks out into the open more often than most rails. Usually detected by call, a loud, accelerating series of notes that descend the scale. Shares a similar color pattern with African crake, but African rail has a longer bill and an unspotted back. Medium-sized, bright rail, overall orange with red bill and legs, gray cheek, and black stripes on back. Similar to king rail at first glance, but much smaller, gray cheek distinctive. Mostly found in freshwater marshes but also found in brackish and saltwater. Prefers extensive cattails or reeds but also found in shrubbier marshes. Shy and not often seen, but sometimes wanders along the edge of reeds. Most easily detected by voice. Male song is a series of doubled, kiddick, kiddick, notes. Most common call is a descending, accelerating series of grunts. Medium-sized, brightly colored rail, overall orange with red bill and legs, gray cheek, and black stripes on back. Found locally in freshwater marshes in the high Andes of Ecuador and southernmost Colombia, as well as a few very rare populations near the coast in Peru. No similar species in range. Shy and not often seen, but sometimes wanders along the edge of reeds. Most easily detected by voice. Most common call is a wheezy, descending and accelerating series of grunts. Medium-sized rail restricted to high-elevation marshes in the Andes of Colombia, unlikely to be confused in small range. Gray below and brown above with bright red bill and legs. Sex is similar. Like most rails, often remains hidden among marshy grasses, but not overly shy. Sometimes walks at the edge of a lake or marsh in plain sight. Scarce, very local, and rarely seen rail of Patagonia. Found in fresh marshes and lake edges with tall reeds and rushes. Sometimes comes out to feed at edges of reeds early and late in the day, but mainly detected by voice. No similar species in range. Note the striped back, barred flanks, and red bill. Columbia's rail is larger with plain plumage and a greenish bill. Chunky, mid-sized rail. Note the black and brown scalloped back, gray head and chest, barred belly, reddish bill and yellowish legs. Found in mostly seasonal wetlands, such as flooded grassland. Most often seen trailing its long legs when it flushes from grass before quickly settling back down. Two common vocalizations are a series of dry k-r notes and a series of deeper doo-dah notes. Similar color pattern to African rail, but African crake has a shorter bill and a spotted back. This unusual rail can be quite tame, and is often found well away from water. The upper parts are olive brown, the underparts are rufous, and the bright white undertail is often revealed when the tail is flicked up while walking. Found in montane habitats, including wetlands, scrub, and heath, within its small range, unlikely to be confused with other rails. Calls include a two-part key and a rising cree. A large, little-known flightless rail from Sulawesi. Note the heavy bill, orange in females, duller in males, and the tailless appearance. Gray with an orange nape and contrastingly rufous wings. Note dense barring on belly. A rarely seen terrestrial bird of densely vegetated forest floor in lowlands and foothills. Sometimes occurs in nearby dense scrub too. Much larger and heavier build than slaty-breasted rail, and further differs in showing conspicuous rufous wings. Vocalizations include a low-pitched mmm and wheezing, and snoring noises. A big, robust, rather colorful rail. The olive-green back, reddish underparts, and white throat are distinctive, much less shy than typical rails, and sometimes quite tame. Found on the ground in forests, mangroves, moist scrub, marsh, and rice paddies. Quite vocal, most common call is a very loud, ringing series of rising sweet notes, larger than wood rails, with a longer bill and a much larger white throat patch. Also larger than Madagascar rail, with brighter coloration. A classic long-billed brown marsh rail, found in grass and sedge wetlands in eastern Madagascar, shy and skulking, as is typical for a rail, usually detected by voice, highly vocal, with a variety of calls, including an explosive, whinnying series and deep grunts, larger than fluff-tails and Balin's Crakes with a longer bill, smaller than white-throated rail, with browner coloration and a dark throat. Extremely secretive inhabitant of wet grassland, meadows, and hayfields, mainly in wilder areas. Distinctive song can draw attention, given mainly early and late in the day, also often at night. It is a risping double-noted croak, repeated on and on, suggesting a pen being drawn across a comb, or a raspy duck quack. Plumage brownish overall with gray face and breast, stout pinkish bill. In flight shows bright rusty wings. Combination of intricately barred back and belly, gray throat and breast, and rufous crown and nape separates this furtive bird from similar species. Like many other rails, moves about unobtrusively in dense vegetation in marshes, wet grasslands, flooded pastures, and mangroves. Occasionally forages in the open in close proximity to cover, especially in early morning and evening. Calls include a dry series of kick notes that increase in tempo, a dry, scratchy, metallic, krrr, and single, short clucks. A mysterious medium-sized rail, possibly a foothill or montane grassy areas and forests. Dark brown above with a pale gray chest, a whitish throat, a barred belly, blackish legs, and a fairly long, curved reddish bill. Little known in life and mainly seen at a banding station, suggesting local migration. Similar to slaty-breasted and buff-banded rails, but Luzon has a fairly unpatterned back, a longer, thinner bill, and no rufous on the head. Voice little known, although when distressed, gives a sharp, quick, and various squeals. Cryptic rail with long, decurved bill. Adult has reddish-brown crown and nape, gray breast, and black and white barred belly. Darker juvenile very dull in comparison and lacks the reddish-brown crown. Buff-banded rail has a chunkier bill and prominent pale eyebrow. This species is typically difficult to observe as it tends to hide in reed beds, where heard far more often than seen. Calls include a loud, as well as strange grunts and growls. Small rail with rusty red to rusty brown crown, sides of head and neck. Note the long, slim red bill. Confined to Adams and Disappointment Islands and the Auckland Islands only. Very secretive, often hiding among thick vegetation. Voice is the best indication of its presence. A loud call. The only similar local species is subantarctic snipe. Auckland Islands rail has a shorter bill and an unpatterned head, and does not readily flush when disturbed. A huge, distinctive all-dark flightless forest rail with a powerful red bill and red legs, restricted to the island of Halmahera in the North Moluccas, where it occurs in swampy areas within forest, especially sago swamps. Very shy, roaming the forest floor singly or in pairs. Calls include deep drumming noises, and a racket of loud, walk walk walk, notes repeated in an agitated sounding series. Also gives quieter clucking notes. A large rail of forest floor on Kalin Island, overall slaty gray in color, slightly browner on the back with a blackish face, long orange-red legs, and a fairly long, stout orange-red bill. Forages on the forest floor for snails, beetles, and millipedes. Similarly sized birds on Kalin include barred rail and plain bush hen, but both avoid forest interior. Taban scrubfowl is found in forest, but lacks the orange bill and legs. Voice is a nasal squawk. Secretive, very large rail, approaching Australasian swampland, in size, only likely to be seen in a near mangrove, foraging in the mud along tidal creeks and estuaries in northern Australia. Olive brown above, chestnut below, with grey head, khaki yellow bill, and yellow legs, calls loudly, with grunts and wild honking squawks. Large, flightless rail endemic to New Zealand can be very curious, especially when living around people. Extinct over large tracts of the mainland. Variable plumage. Most birds are predominantly light brown with red eyes, a broad pointed bill, and strong legs, often detected by characteristic cooit calls given at dawn and in early evening. Buff-banded rail is smaller and more boldly marked, with a rufous S stripe and a broad orange breast band. An almost certainly extinct flightless rail found only on New Caledonia. This species occurred in dense forest, possibly especially in deep valleys. Not certainly recorded since 1890, and likely driven to extinction by introduced dogs and pigs. Extinct, last reported in 1900. A round-bodied and short-tailed rail with long pink legs, mostly chestnut above and black below with white barring, almost flightless, prefers damp thick forests and mountain valleys, but also occurs in swampy grass and agricultural areas, similar to pale-vented bush hen and buff-banded rail, but differs from both in its black throat with white barring, and from buff-banded by its lack of a prominent white eyebrow, vocally poorly known, but reported to give wheezing nasal barks and screams. A candy red bill, curving white head stripe, and lacy black and white stripping make this a unique and attractive species, found only in and around the Yanbaru forest on Okinawa Island, where it forages on the forest floor, often in pairs or small flocks. Most frequently seen as it crosses roads, trails, and clearings, gives a variety of different calls, typically given during dusk, dawn, or nighttime hours. All are somewhat terrifying, a medley of shrill yelps, high-pitched squeals, and a laughter like clattering. A strikingly marked rail with a short cocktail, olive brown above and heavily barred black and white below and on throat, with a rufous band across the chest. Face is strikingly black with a thick white stripe, favors damp marshy grassland up to 1,000 meters of elevation, similar to buff-banded rail, but easily identified by its white facial stripe and lack of a white eyebrow, often heard giving a loud, harsh croaking chorus. A long-necked and short-tailed rail with a long decurved bill, uniformly brownish-red, sometimes with variable barring on underside and flanks. Flightless, naturally occurs in subtropical forest, but now mostly restricted to highest mountains. No similar species occur in its range, often heard giving an advertising, coo-eat, call, but also commonly a series of drumming boom notes. A very dark short-tailed rail, often appearing entirely black, dark brown on the wings and back with black on the neck, head, and underparts, bill yellowish or gray, flightless, occurs in damp lowland grassland and grassy thickets within forests. Sounds include a series of sharp yelping and squealing, kick-kick, noises. Extinct, last reported in 1973. Extinct, last reported in 1900. Small and sneaky rail, barred belly with a smudged orange buff chest band, reddish head with strong pale eyebrow, makes a loud squeaking call, usually sticks to dense cover near water, occasionally strutting around the edges or crossing paths. On small islands, e.g., Green Island, Lord Howe Island, Lady Elliot Island, it is extremely tame and abundant. A flightless rail with a plain roughish back and neck, a plain gray throat and narrow eyebrow, a dark bill, and underparts barred brown and white, seemingly tolerant of a wide variety of habitats, including secondary forests and gardens, similar to buff-banded rail, but underparts barred brown and white, not black and white, and upperparts much plainer. Call is reportedly a rapidly repeated high-pitched t-t-t-t-t-t. short-tailed, mostly flightless rail, known locally as the coco, with reddish chestnut upper parts and white barred black underparts, gray on the chest and throat with a pale gray eyebrow. Once widespread across most habitats, it became extinct in the wild in the 1980s, but has been reintroduced in carefully managed areas thanks to a captive breeding program similar to buff-banded rail, but lacks chestnut on the face and breast, and has a more extensive area of black with white barring below. Upper side is also much plainer reddish, most commonly heard giving short-tipped notes, but also loud screeches during breeding season. Extinct, last reported in 1800. Extinct, last reported in 1944.